Alright, let me get some 6 dogs for you guys, because some of y'all don't know who he is, but he just died. And he's like a really good artist that I love, like a lot. He's real good.
Shorty call a shotgun, I'm riding in the backseat. I'm always in the backseat, swear it's like a taxi. Why'd you have to play me? I'm done playing happy. Your love was fake, I was stuck.
I am on Mirage Island, bro.
I won't go out sadly, that's all for you, cause you treated me badly. Now I'm stacking Benjis inside a tenant Bentleys. A hole where my heart was, it's worth feeling empty. Take a jet to Japan, cause you're not in Japan. I hope you move on, but I don't know if you can. I'm riding on the interstate, cause I ain't got no plans. I'm just trying to elevate, don't care where I land. That's not it, poison covered lips. I really took a risk when I leaned in for that kiss. Can't believe you switched, you said you wanted kids. It all makes sense, poison covered lips. Sorry I left you, but you left me no choice. After all I've been through, now I'm floating in the void, but I can see stars now, and they shine so bright. I might cop a new grill, cause I can finally. Shorty call a shotgun, I'm riding in the backseat. I'm always in the backseat, swear it's like a taxi. Why'd you have to play me? I'm done playing happy. Your love was fake, I was stuck in your fantasy. Stories end in tragedy, I won't go out sadly. That's all for you, cause you treated me bad.
Dude, I'm just always chill. Yes! I finally got the Abra that I need. Oh my god, is Skater God watching?
Feeling empty, sauce got plenty. Now I got the recipe, I'm done with the backseat. I already told you, you should find a new dude. You should find a new dude. Racing on the freeway, racks on a new coupe. Trying to forget you.
Yes, dude.
Shorty call shotgun, I'm riding
in the backseat.
I'm always in the backseat, swear it's like a taxi. Watch you have to play me, I'm done playing happy. Your love was fake, I was stuck in your fantasy. Stories and a tragedy, I won't go out sadly. That's all for you, cause you treated me badly. Now I'm stacking Benjis inside a tenant Bentleys. A hole where my heart was, it's worth feeling empty.
Dude, you'll take. Oh no, dude, this song's not TikTok. He called me Malfoy, bro. Alright, let me get more Six Dogs for you. This is like his most famous song.
Cream soda Fago down, still dreaming. They hate on me, I don't know the reason. Finna wake them all up, cause I know they sleeping. I'm wide awake, but shit, I'm still dreaming. Cream soda Fago down, still dreaming. They hate on me, I don't know the reason. Finna wake them all up, cause I know they sleeping. I'm wide awake, but shit, I'm still dreaming. Wanna whip them cars now. I'm thankful for these scars now. I wanna whip them cars now. I'm thankful for these scars now. Got the kids jumping like it's recess. I just spend the bands and I reset. Reset, reset. I just spend the bands and I reset, reset. Hey, you need to reassess. And I'm counting ends like I'm motherfucking math test. Yeah, they talk that toxic, but I'm way past it. And she wanna get with me, cause she know I'm up next. Money counter, money counter. Yeah, this shit gon' count with or without her. Money counter, money counter. Yeah, this shit gon' count with or without her. Cream soda Fago, down, still dreaming. They hate on me, I don't know the reason. Finna wake them all up, cause I know they sleeping. I'm wide awake, but shit, I'm still dreaming. Cream soda Fago, down, still dreaming. They hate on me, I don't know the reason. Finna wake them all up, cause I know they sleeping. I'm wide awake, but shit, I'm still dreaming. Yeah, I don't need her. Shorty, she a tweaker. Swear that I don't need her. I was in the bleachers.
The memories you see and feel before the instant you go and die. The blood stains the sky, the moon and the lindsay eyes. Ningen wa shito afureru shoten ga semete kuru. I just wanna cleanse the world of the wicked and impure. Surrounded by foes that cannot endure.
This dude just related my haircut to Wee Wee Herman, bro. Or who? I don't even know. But this dude is tripping. It's not. I don't even know what he's saying. I just I said that and realized it's Pee Wee Herman. So I don't know what he's trying to say here at all. I'm just trying to hunt, man. Like, chill, bro. Oh god.
なくそつまんないことばっかり考えていたくないのになんでこんなにもうまくいかないかなんて考えてるうちは幸せそれでも俺たちはすごい生きる活力を見出すのに今日も
Oh
ネ
god.
ットには見えない幸せそんな人がいて当たり前どっちがメンヘラかわからない現実を見ない天の弱情報は交差してもろく確かに人間はほどなくいつでも俺らの過ちを過去の産物
Abstract shit,
I'm Lego, I'm Lego, I'm Lego. 무사는 고토와 무언가의 허스. Omega, Omega, Omega.
Trapped in the darkness, screaming, looking at the ceiling, feeling like I'm dreaming. Baby girl, you look appealing, body got me feeling something to believe in. I'm out to catching feelings, never been deceiving. You, I'm breathing. Smoke all this weed, I'm beaming, going through the season, looking like a demon. I'll be stuck in 302. Don't give a fuck because I'm stuck up here with you. And yeah, you know my feelings always fucking blue. And baby, yeah, you know I always tell the truth. All my grind, all my life. Walk around with my knife. Play with me on my
Hey.
and I'll cut your face tonight. Tonight, tonight, I'll make it all feel alright. Tonight, tonight, I promise that you won't cry. Tonight, I promise that I won't die. Tonight, baby, you are my life. Trapped in a dark room, screaming, looking at the ceiling, feeling like I'm dreaming. Baby girl, you look appealing, body got me feeling something to believe in. I'm about to catch your feelings, never been deceiving. You, I'm breathing. Smoke all this weed, I'm leaning, going through the season, looking like a demon. Trapped in the dark room, screaming, looking at the ceiling, feeling like I'm dreaming. Baby girl, you look appealing, body got me feeling something to believe in. I'm about to catch your feelings, never been deceiving. You, I'm breathing. Smoke all this weed, I'm leaning, going through the season, looking like a demon. Looking like a demon. You're dreaming.
Oh fuck. This body means nothing to me. This game hates me.
They don't know there's people talking, and they don't seem to care.
And I keep falling in and out, and it leaves me rotting. But I doubt he's had enough, had enough, had enough. Feels like I'm standing on the outside, looking in, and I know this body's not mine. To begin with, I wish that I could crawl out my skin and see the world. And I promise this is the last time. I admit it, these days just seem to pass by. In a minute, a pistol in a small town. We've seen it all before. And I just wish I could go outside without this fear of home. And I should probably see a counselor, 'cause I don't feel too well. And why am I always the bad guy when I'm just trying to help? This body means nothing to me at all. Heading to Soyo, rain in the clouds. And carousel as I'm spinning around and around and around. I had you like you turned yours on me. I was so blind now, it's easy to see. They were slipping, I just real deep there. Where the hell have you been? I don't need a fake friend. Keep the distance, losing you's a win-win. Always gotta pretend. I don't need a fake friend. Hello, hello, hello. Pick up the phone. They were slipping, I just real deep there. Where the hell have you been? I don't need a fake friend. Stuck in the past or living for now. And what is the difference if you went around and around and around? I had you back, you
What's up, Arinze?
I was so bad now, it's easy to see. They were slipping, I just real deep there. Where the hell have you been? I don't need a fake friend. Keep the distance, losing you's a win-win. Always gotta pretend. I don't need a fake friend. Hello, hello, hello. Pick up the phone. They were slipping, I just real deep there. Where the hell have you been? I don't need a fake friend. They were slipping, ice is real thin there. Where the hell have you been? I don't need a fake friend. Keep your distance, losing you's a win-win. Always gotta pretend. I don't need a fake friend. They were slipping, ice is real deep there. Where the hell have you been? I don't need a fake friend. Keep the distance, losing you's a win-win. Always gotta pretend. I don't need a fake friend. Hello, hello, hello. Pick up the phone. They were slipping, ice is real deep there. Where the hell have you been? I don't need a fake friend.
Jesus.
live inside the nighttime. She said I didn't feel like it's the right time. Well, I saw you with the new boy. I'm looking for something that I can destroy. You know I hate it when you tease me. I see you every night when I am dreaming. Yeah, every time I see you right there, you turn a dream into a fucking nightmare. Yeah, I'm headed off the deep end. Since you left, I swear I'm barely breathing. Lately I've been steady speeding. 4 a.m. debating with my demons. I've been feeling like it's too late, too late. Every day it's like a doomsday, doomsday. I pull up on 'em with my switchblade, switchblade. Make 'em get a taste of my pain, my pain. I live inside the nighttime. She said I didn't feel like it's the right time. Well, I saw you with the new boy. I'm looking for something that I can destroy. You know I hate it when you tease me. I see you every night when I am dreaming. Yeah, every time I see you right there, you turn a dream into a fucking nightmare. Yeah. Of your hands, all they felt inside my eye. Can't understand why you wasted my time playing Russian roulette all by myself. 'Cause you live in my head. I live inside the nighttime. She said I didn't feel like it's the right time. Well, I saw you with the new boy. I'm looking for something that I can destroy. You know I hate it when you tease me. I see you every night when I am dreaming. Yeah, every time I see you right there, you turn a dream into a fucking nightmare. Yeah. Nightmare, nightmare. I'm living in the nightmare. Nightmare, nightmare. I'm living in the nightmare.
Oh my god.
When I think of love, I see your face. But when I think of you, I think of pain. My heart and mind are not on the same page. It's obvious I get carried away. All of the things that I don't know, all of the feelings I don't show. My mind doesn't know where to go though. Got me standing in place like a photo. But I know you don't know. I should know by now.
This song like explains my life. It's so fucked.
bike to your mom's house, 10 miles on the other side of town. I remember everything down to your perfume. Your brother played rancid in the back room. Years went by and I'm still stuck. Heard you settled down and you grew up. Tell me, is he everything you wanna? Really hope so. You deserve the best and nothing less. You held my hand, look me in the face. You say you needed space, and you never called back. Was I a mistake? Something to replace, someone to throw away. I'll wait for you to call back. Man, I've been going through the motions, even though I've been broken. Even though you let me high dry, it's a wonder why I'm still hoping. Same shit, just a different day. I don't get why I can't turn the pace. Ice cold since you went away, I can feel it all running in my face. And I can still feel it and I can still see your reflection. And nowadays I don't feel anything but the depression. And I don't get why I can't move on and live in the present. It's like the past is my home and I'm working on trying to forget it. You held my hand, look me in the face. You say you needed space, and you never called back. Was I a mistake? Something to replace, someone to throw away. I'll wait for you to call back.
Instead of living in the moment, we as human beings rather dwell on the past or fear the future. Nobody wants to look on the bright side anymore. Like, that shit doesn't work. We tend to lose people along our journey. As much as it sucks, we try to keep our head up high and hope for the best. And I guess that's what this album's about. It's just trying.
How does it work? How do you do this to someone? Oh, as if you had no.
I'm drowning in my airspace, driving shock point like I'm Isaac Clarke in dead space. 2-gram cone to my dome, now I'm dead weight. I feel fine, celebrating, popping champagne. Caught me in my zone, all alone, marijuana on my lip. Fixing for the herb, I'm packing purple till I'm stiff. Fall asleep in chairs or couches, I don't give a shit. Low sleepy boy, I'm overlooking on a cliff. It's a fucking cliff now. Cliff bar sucking, cliff of the dog was an info. Break it till it fall apart, I guess you got the memo. Goodbye to my hello. I was once a shade of blue, but you to me the yellow. My color palette's minimal, but I don't give a fuck. Flip it till it saturates, the vibers ain't enough. Been awake for days and I'm amazed that I'm still up. Sleep is for the weak and I'm afraid of giving up. I'm afraid of giving up. I just wanna die sometimes, probably flatline. Have you ever made a wish and it doesn't come true? This time I'm a flatline, losing everything, including my goddamn mind. I'm a flatline, baby, I'ma die, don't cry, it'll be alright. I'm a flatline. Death is rolling through the wind, hyperactive like a kid without the Ritalin. Sip 40 still sinking to my seat. Transportation elevate so I can feel my feet. No. Cloudy in my head, I think the lighter fluid lit my lucid visions from my bed. I sit and ponder about the water that I'm drinking from my sink. Will it calcify and justify the feelings that I think? Probably not. That's a fucking headline. Heading to the shore without a cure for all my deadlines. Subtweeting my enemies, but they're just merely enzymes. I know that you love me, but you love them too, and that's fine. I should probably go. Sipping up my Cody, spark a blonde under the snow. Whoa, I just blew an O. Stepped into a portal. said I just wanna die. Sometimes probably flatline. Have you ever made a wish and it doesn't come true? This time I'm a flatline, losing everything, including my goddamn mind. I'm a flatline. Baby, I'ma die. Don't cry, it'll be alright. I'm a flatline. I'ma let down. When they put me in the ground, I hope you never forget me. No, I'm the problem. Run away, but I can't find someone to accept me. Smash her like a pumpkin, why you bitches frontin'? Hit me on my phone, but you ain't getting nothing. No, they do not like me. Rappers always bite me, acting like we friends, then they'll follow me on IG. Mad I took they wifey, but they don't wanna fight me. Cause if we throwing hands, I'ma end up fucking lifey. Shout Kiera Knightley, shout out Nick Twicey. Shout out everybody in the world that despise me. Read my mind and you take my time while I save your life. So let's say it twice, yeah. Read my mind while I save your life. This the second time, so just thank me twice. I'ma let down. When they put me in the ground, I hope you never forget me. No, I'm the problem. I wanna run away, but I can't find someone to accept me. Yeah. I just want you won't talk to me. Every time I try, you won't talk to me. I'm an awful guy, make you wanna cry, make you wanna die. Do you wanna ride? We've been getting high, watch the ocean rise. Let me make you mine, baby, let me try. Killing time, snort another line. Yeah, you know I'm yours, but you're never mine. Sitting spine to spine, I say that I'm fine. You can't see my eyes, but you know that I'm lying. I don't really think that I can trust now. I just wanna bust now. What the fuck is up now? Everybody asking me what's up now, but that doesn't really bug me. Oh, these bitches wanna fuck me, but fuck that. I don't want it. I'd rather be with you. Honest, I feel like you deserve better. I feel like I'm so whatever. I just wonder why you won't talk to me. Every time I try, you won't talk to me. Whatever you be doing, it's okay now. I just love the music, fuck the money and the fame. Now you cry.
just wonder why you won't talk to me. Every time I try, you won't talk to me. I just wonder
Part 2.
you won't talk to me. Every time I try, why won't you walk Yeah, the mirror says, who are you? Who are you? Oh, looking for a reason not to shoot. Please don't shoot, please don't shoot. Oh, fear is just a product of the truth. No escape, summer in vain. Throwback 6th grade, living in pain. Yeah, all this rap sounds the same. Yeah, maybe I'll make the game change. Yeah, or maybe I'll stay so lame. Or maybe go Kurt Cobain. Or maybe I'll reach that fame. But hate to go out with a bang. So back to the man in the mirror. Where I am interferes with my plans next year. Want a grand, 100 bands, couple racks, couple Zans, couple big titty hentai, got girlfriends. Fuck all that shit till the world ends. I don't wanna make racks, I wanna make friends. I don't need cash, fuck a snake skin. Fuck a snake kid, fake friend. You a bitch, get treated like a bitch do. In a few months I will forget you. In a few months I'll take too much. Give my cash to the fam, yes thank you. I've been sitting on heat like a tank do. I've been blowing up fast like my rage do. Talk shit boy, I'll rearrange you. Got my head in the front with grenades in the trunk. You ain't special just because you fucking say so. Actions speak loud like my Draco. I've been dreaming they cream soda Fago. Never fall in love with another fake hoe. Я ушел без опросной вершине. Ничего не сказал, подскользнул и упал. И вернул я тебя сюрприз звездой. И опять я кричал, в этот раз я устал. Who are you? Who are you? Oh, looking for a reason not to shoot. Oh, please don't shoot, please don't shoot. Oh, fear is just a product of the truth. Oh, who are you? Who are you? Oh, looking for a reason not to choose. Oh, please don't choose, please don't choose. Oh, got fear, I won't choose you. Who are you? Who are you? Oh, looking for a reason not to shoot. Oh, please don't shoot, please don't shoot. Oh, fear is just a product of the truth. Oh. I was in the clouds, I was looking down. I was by myself because no one was around. Now I think I'm next, but I'm still depressed. Hanging by a thread, maybe hanging by my neck. I was in the clouds, always looking down. I was by myself because no one was around. Now I think I'm next, but I'm still depressed. Hanging by a thread, maybe hanging by my neck. All black fit, you can't see me with the lights out. All these fights, I just really wanna lie down. All that hate, but they started being nice now. All your love, but I feel it start to wind down. Do you hate me? Do you love me? Asking what's wrong, I said nothing. All these people want a piece of me. No peace, no sleep, can't breathe, yeah. Clouds, always looking down. I was by myself because no one was around. Now I think I'm next, but I'm still depressed. Hanging by a thread, maybe
I'm in silver. Where is it? Silver is the best server. What do you mean? Don't you? Nah, bro. You one of those gold players. I'll pray for you, bro. Oof. I'll pray for you, bro. Where is it? Is it Celadon? I want to say it's Celadon. Nah. Where's Entei? Is it Siru? Bottle of Patron. God, I hate Entei. Alright. Like a fucking goon.
Remember feeling low and low, but now I'm up and bitches wanna fuck. Bitches wanna fuck. And no one used to wanna talk, but now they walking up to say what's up. But I just wanna be alone. I just wanna make it on my own. Yeah, you know how it go. You know how the story gonna go. Remember feeling low and low, but now I'm up and bitches wanna fuck. Bitches wanna fuck. And no one used to wanna talk, but now they walking up to say what's up. Yeah, they walking say what's up.
Oh dang, I shouldn't have done that. That's not good. Cause now protect ain't gonna work. And that's fine. I don't even care. You kill that guy. Discord is dark. Or is it flying rock? Ground flying, alright. Okay, that's gonna be too annoying.
Nettie? Wait. Well, where are you going?
Speeding down the highway, going fast. Honestly, I think I wanna crash. I guess that you and me were made to last. I'm dying young, my heart beats fast. I'm really fucking mad things went this way. Don't really understand the things I say. Hurt you, I don't deserve you. My heart might stop, but I'll never desert you. Maybe I could be someone someday. I could be the one you look to when you have something to say. I'm the night and you're the day. With you my darkness starts to fade, and no one else could do the same. I write this song to call your name. Honest, I'm not honest. I promise to make no promise. Honest, I'm not honest. Don't promise to make no promise. Speeding down the highway, going fast. Honestly, I think I wanna crash. I guess that you and me were made to last. I'm built to fall, you're built to stand. And I can't stand my state of mind. Loving me is a waste of time. So let me go and just waste mine. Now I can see that love is blind. I'm really fucking mad, this is how it is. But in the same vein, I can't take this. I love you for the life you gave me. This is my last chance, I need you to save me. I'm the night, you're the day. With you, my darkness starts to fade, and no one else can do the same. I write this song to call your name. I'm the night, you're the day. With you, my darkness starts to fade, and no one else can do the same.
Dome Fossil Night.
To call your name.
Night. Alright, I'm using my repel. Okay.
Girl, where you at? I've been missing you. Still ain't hit me up. The fuck I gotta do? You only wanna fuck. You're scared to fall in love. You're scared to hit my phone.
Fuck it, I'll call you up.
Girl, where you at?
Wait,
I've been missing you.
this dude ain't dark, is he?
The fuck I gotta do? You only wanna fuck. You're scared to fall in love. You're scared to hit my phone. Fuck it, I'll call you up. Don't you fuck with me, just cause you know I'll blow
about it, you won't show up. All these groupies show love, but I'm not trying to fuck. I only want one girl. It's been a week since we talked. Is it a week or a month? Is it a week or a month? Ay? Is it a week or a month? Is it a week or a month? Ay, ay. Girl, where you at? I've been missing you. Still ain't hit me up. The fuck I gotta do? You only wanna fuck. Too scared to fall in love. Too scared to hit my phone. Fuck it, I'll call you up. Ay.
Getting lonely every day, wanna throw it all away. Man, I wanna smoke a J, but there is just no way that I will forget you, cause you have my heart too. Man, I wanna fuck you, but I can't forget you. All I want is your love, no you gotta hit me up. I know you don't give a fuck, but you got me missing us. What did I do wrong? Really hope you hear this song. Really hope we fall in love. I meant all of the above. Even when I fall asleep, I see you in my dreams. No, I am not safe. Had my heart from first base. I just wanna be with you. Am I asking too much? Sorry that I got a crush. I just hope we fall in love. I will never call you names. Do you got my respect? We can listen to my music. I don't care about the sex. I just really miss you. I just wanna kiss you. Cliche, but it's true. Why do I miss you?
Do you guys want to listen to creepypastas?
Spiderweb thread so thin, so fragile. Everyone in school hurt me since a damn child. Cried when I wrote this, tears in my notes and love in my heart, but it's broken. Past mediocre, little heart, breaking cold heart. Pop for his hands, treat the whip like a go-kart. No, I'ma die when my heart stop, won't start. No, I'ma die real young, so I go hard. It feels like I'll never blow up. You never show love. Been trying my best, but my best not enough. Hope that I make mama proud. I'll sing to the clouds. Hope she's looking down, cause I'm all alone. Friends dip on you when you need them most. I'ma give my shot and I know I won't choke. When I die, I'ma haunt you like a ghost. They'll say that it's a tragedy, but really it's a joke. Saying this, you fuck with me and then you shake my hand. You tell me I'm the man, then I follow on the gram. Why do they hate me? I'll just never understand. I'ma kill myself and then they'll regret it then. They'll regret it then. Feels like I'll never blow up. You never show love. Been trying my best, but my best not enough. Hope that I make mama proud. I'll sing to the clouds. Hope she's looking down, cause I'm all alone now. Broke boy, but it ain't cash that I'm lacking. Got guns, but it ain't heat that I'm packing. Yeah, I heard you tracking. Yeah, I think it's whacking. I'm the only one not acting. It feels like I'll never blow up. You never show love. Been trying my best, but my best not enough. Hope that I make mama proud. I'll sing to the clouds. Hope she's looking down, cause
I'm not replacing Don Fan.
Я не знаю, я не знаю,
Bruh.
я не знаю, я не знаю.
Bruh.
Нет. Эй. Oh, is it real? Is it fake or is it all a dream? Why do people be so evil? Aim it all at me. I don't know. I don't know. future. Don't let her stay, I just pay for her Uber. MF Doom called me and told me I'm super. Take some more, clown up and die in a stupor. Shit, if you hating on me, then I know that you a dumb bitch. Labels watching me like I be doing front flips. If she talking shit to me, then I know that we done ripped. Making moves and see that you ain't even done shit. I was cruising through my city, getting recognized by everyone. Everybody hated me, but now they wanna see me stunned. Back in middle school, I had to fight it and I got hurt a lot. That was also easy way before I had to carry guns. I was sober till I popped another blonde. Thanks for the memories, but now they fucking gone. My heart beating faster than a marathon. No one helped me, so I don't put no one on. Old friends try to reach out on the gram, saying that they listen to me, now they understand. Talking about they get the shit that happened to their mans, but no one understands the type of person that I am. No one understands the type of person that I am. No one understands the type of person that I am. No one understands the type of person that I am. I don't understand the fucking person that I am. I don't know. 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 I don't know, yeah. Got flown out to LA by a man in the game. Said I'd be a fucking legend now.
I've been having dreams about that summer. Persistent dreams. I can't fall asleep without seeing my dad's face. It's why I started seeing a therapist in the first place, because of those dreams. They always start when I first saw the theme park. We're in his office. I must have been sad because he claps me on the back and says, "There's no reason to cry. No reason at all." His voice scratches at my ears. That I remember. There's little I remember of my father. Lee says that has something to do with the trauma, but I don't think so. He was quiet when I was young and absent when I was older. That did more to cover it. GBS ended its journey with a ping above me, like giant hands. After a while of struggling forward with my head down, I glanced up. Somewhere up ahead, half hidden in the fog, was the towering shape of the oak tree. The one Duke hadn't wanted to go near. And in my dream, wind howling around my face and cutting into my skin, I suddenly understood why. Because there was someone standing up there. A half-hidden figure in the fog. I couldn't make out any of their features, but I had the sense of a tall shadow next to the trunk. A shadow that seemed to be waiting for me. And from somewhere, deep in my stomach, and extending out into my frozen nerve endings, I felt the worst sense of dread I've ever felt before in my life. I tried to dig my feet in and stay put like Duke did, but the wind seemed to have changed direction. It carried me forward. That was last night. As I write this now, sitting with a computer in my room and trying to make sense of everything, that same sense of dread is still sitting in my stomach. It's like a knot that won't loosen. I'd hoped that when I finally woke up, thrashing in my rumpled duvet and cold with sweat, that the feeling would go away. It hasn't. It's grown. It grew when I saw the scattered leaves on the floor of my bedroom. It grew even more when I pulled back the covers and saw the dirt on my bed, on the bottom of my feet too. I thought I'd stopped sleepwalking years ago, but it seems like last night's dream might not have been entirely my head after all. None of that was the worst thing though. The worst thing The thing that prompted me to write this all down, to try and make sense of it. The thing that makes me think I might be really, seriously ill, is the floorboard. The loose floorboard in the corner of my room. I noticed it as I was getting out of bed to go to the bathroom. It caught my eye because a leaf, presumably one brought back from my nighttime adventure, had lodged in the crack beside it. The board was slightly raised too, as if it had been lifted and not put back properly. Writing this now, I can see the floorboard from the corner of my eye. It's still raised, but I didn't push it all the way down after I looked under there. I wish I hadn't looked under there. My thoughts are a jumbled mess I still can't make sense of. But the items I found below that floorboard are pushing my mind in a direction I don't want it to go. The first thing I found was a map. It was badly drawn, and I couldn't make much sense of the details. But the place being mapped out was obvious. My village. What was even more obvious was a large red cross marking the exact point on Duke's usual walk where the oak tree stands. The same one I saw in my dream. That was bad. But it wasn't the worst thing. The worst thing was the wooden box. The tiny jewelry box beneath the floorboard that jingled when I lifted it out, and which contained nothing inside but a handful of dirt-encrusted metal collar tags, similar to the one on the collar Duke wears around her neck. Writing this now, I feel exhausted. My headache's raging again, and I can barely keep my eyes open. But I don't want to close them. I'm scared of what might happen if I do. My parents will be home from work soon. I can't show them the box. I can't tell my friends, or family, or teachers about what I found. They'll all think I've done something bad. And, despite what I keep trying to tell myself about this all being some sick joke, some horrible, impossible trick, I think they could be right. I live in Hudson, Oregon, and sometimes, when they cut down a tree in my town, they find a body inside. I don't mean that they find bodies inside the hollows. I mean that the bodies are found completely encased within the wood of solid, whole trees. According to my grandpa, there were many stories of bodies in trees going around in Hudson since before he could remember. He thinks they started in the 1800s as old pioneers and settlers stories, but they were just that, stories. Now, the first confirmed instance didn't occur until the 70s. According to my dad, when he was about 11, he'd heard rumors that the Benson family had cut down a tree in their backyard, were chopping it up for firewood, and boom, bones and clothes in the middle of the logs. Donnie Fillmore told me it was like the wood had grown around the corpse. He remembers. Dad got unnerved. Dad told Grandpa, and Grandpa, a scientist enthusiast who didn't even raise his children to believe in Santa Claus, laughed and said those stories had been around forever. My dad was pretty shook up though, so Grandpa said that if it would calm him down, he'd take him to the Benson family himself to prove that it was just the newest iteration of an old story. They went to the Bensons. It wasn't just a story. Nobody knew who it was the Bensons found in the tree. Grandpa says some wacko in town even tried to persuade people the body had grown inside the tree, but everyone pointed out real soon that didn't explain the clothes. The reporters came to Hudson, of course. Dad says he even remembers a news truck. There are some old newspaper clippings about it from archives I was able to find online, but the news never really made it national. Grandpa says it got drowned out by Watergate. They buried the remains in an unmarked plot in the local cemetery, and for years, people joked that if someone was running late to a meeting, they'd been caught by a tree. The second body they found is much better documented. In fact, you may have heard about it yourself. In 1987, a landscaping company hired by Westford Construction was clearing out some forest land for homes. The landscaping company, whose name I haven't been able to find, it may have been off the books illegal immigrant labour, decided to mitigate cost of labour by selling felled trees to Gernstein Lumber, a local timber processing plant. Guess what they found in one of the trees? Body found within trees, the headline read, by Sandra Tyson, Portland Times, defunct, March 29th, 1987. It read, Hudson, Oregon. A local processing plant was shocked on Monday to discover the remains of a missing woman encased within the wood of one of the trees it was processing. Hector Torres, the supervisor at Gernstein Lumber Processing Plant, informed authorities that workers had found clothes and human bones within some timber that the plant was in the process of preparing for sale. Local authorities have identified the bodies as Helen Fields, a Hudson woman who was reported missing in 1974. Robert and Cassandra Fields, the parents of the missing woman, say that while they're at peace now that their daughter has been found, they want to know what happened to her and how her body came to be encased within a tree. Fields' remains will be laid to rest with a memorial service at the Hudson City Cemetery on Saturday. You can still find some other articles about the incident online from newspaper archives, though it's most frequently talked about in publications about mysteries and urban legends. Of course, the article doesn't tell you that they'd already cut up the tree when they found the body. I've called Mr. Torres myself, who told me they didn't notice anything strange until the machinery started making funny noises during the cutting, and that they had to hand over 4 different slabs of wood to the police. Also, the article seems to imply that either the body was intact enough to identify, it wasn't, or that they did some sort of DNA testing. I don't think they did. From what the retired cop told me, they were only able to ID the body because they found a Sears name tag encased in the wood with the name Helen on it, though they had to sand it down to make the name visible. And Helen Fields had been working for the local Sears at the time of her disappearance. Also, again from what I can tell, the news never really reached a national scale. Dad says it got drowned out by the Iran-Contra scandal. From what I've been able to find, there weren't any incidents after 1987. At least, none that were reported. During the 80s, Hudson had been touted as the next Portland. The city was planning to expand as much as it could, cutting into the forest land to build homes and stores. But while the rest of America's economy boomed, for some reason, Hudson's failed, and the plans for expansion were scrapped. In fact, I haven't been able to find evidence that any more forest land in Hudson has been cleared since 1987. As you could have probably guessed, I've done my research about this Hudson phenomenon. I'd heard the stories a time or two growing up. They weren't any sort of hushed town secret, nor were they any sort of oft-told, important part of the town's heritage. More than anything, they were just the things that had happened, and everyone in town, busy with their own lives, had simply moved on. They were the kinds of stories that you forgot for years at a time, and when you were at a party or a hangout and one of your friends mentioned them, you'd feel a light turn on in your head and you'd remember them. And you might even have a spooky conversation for half an hour or so before the topic changed again and you'd talk about something else. Heck, the stories might even linger in your mind for a couple of days, but work and relationships and bills and mood gossip push them to the back of your mind for another several years until someone else at another party mentions them again. So, let me tell you when the stories became more than just stories to me. Last year, I was at my friend Eddie's apartment. His full name was Edgar, a secret few knew and fewer could tell without him knocking their teeth out. It had been a rough day for Eddie. His girlfriend of 4 years had packed up her things in the apartment and left without so much as a note, even changing her cell number. As I'd later find out on Facebook, she'd moved back in with her parents. Eddie had had a few beers, and I was trying to talk him through things. He wasn't listening too much. He just sort of sat there, with his eyes unfocused, and, in spite of the beers, was more fidgety than ever. I remember Judge Judy was on the TV in the background. We'd been there for about half an hour, when suddenly, Eddie got up. "Just a sec," he said, heading to his bedroom, and emerging about a minute later with an axe. "Dude," I said, cautiously. "You can keep talking," he said, and, resolutely, he marched straight out the front door. I followed him. I asked him what he was doing, but he didn't answer. He didn't even act like I was there. It was getting dark. We walked out of the neighborhood and into the nearby grove of trees. It's about 2 miles wide. I had my phone in my pocket, ready to call someone, even the police, in case my friend was about to do something he'd regret. Finally, when we were far enough into the grove that we could hear the rush of cars from the freeway, Eddie stopped at a tree. He looked at it, sizing it up for a moment, and, quicker than I thought him capable, he swung the axe into the tree with a resounding thwack. "Dude," I said again. "I'm still listening," he said. I hadn't said anything in 10 minutes. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Clearing my mind," he said. After a moment, he'd stopped, looked around, and pointed a bit farther into the grove. And there, about 50 yards out, I saw a felled tree lying on the ground. This was, evidently, not the first tree that Eddie had taken his anger out on. He'd always been a wall puncher in high school, and I guessed his coping mechanisms had evolved into more aggressive vandalism that, if you were careful, you didn't have to pay for damages. I should have told him to stop, but he was whacking away at the tree like it had killed his sister.
Dude, this
His
shit's
teeth
crazy.
were gritted. I don't think he was drunk enough to hurt anyone, but he might have been tipsy enough to hurt himself. He thwacked and thwacked again, a few chips flying from the tree here and there. Then he let out a guttural yell as he dealt the tree a particularly vicious blow. The axe got stuck in the tree with a sickening thud, and, with some effort, Eddie pulled it out again. "Stop!" I yelled, and surprisingly, Eddie actually stopped. "What?" he said impatiently.
Dude, this shit's wild.
"Look," I said, pointing at the blade of the axe. The blade was splattered with dark, red liquid. I hadn't seen a whole lot of blood in greater quantities than when you cut yourself shaving. For a second, my brain didn't even register that the liquid might have been blood. We looked at the tree, and from the most recent blow, dark ichor was now oozing down the bark. The stories all came rushing back to the forefront of my mind. We both looked at each other. For a moment, we didn't say anything. Eddie looked absolutely stunned. Then, Eddie swung the axe into the tree again. But this time, it was not a passionate blow. It was calculated. Or at least as calculated as a semi-inebriated Eddie could manage. I remember his face, no longer contorted in anger. It was the face of morbid curiosity. Eddie swung again, but swore after announcing that he'd missed his mark. He tried again and swore again, and I, seized myself by the same morbid curiosity, convinced Eddie to let me try. I chipped away at the wood, around the bleeding cut. The axe proved too clumsy an instrument for the job, so Eddie went back to his apartment and fetched a hatchet and a pocket knife, and I got to work. I carved and pulled away wood, all the time wondering if I was really going to find a body. And soon, after peeling away a chunk of wood, I saw it. A strip of blood-soaked denim. We had reached a leg. We kept at it. We should have called the cops right then, but we didn't. The thought didn't even cross my mind. I doubt it would have ever crossed Eddie's. Over the course of an hour, we carved out the left side of the body, whittling and pulling away strips of wood as we made our way up the legs, hip, and all the way to the abdomen, where we hit the blue, shredded fabric of a dress shirt. I was expecting the body to be far more decomposed,
Fuck.
but no. As long as I was careful, I didn't pierce any of the pale, bloated flesh through the jeans, which was stained with blood in places Eddie definitely hadn't hit with the axe, but kept getting caught in the blade. Though I was fine working away the wood, I couldn't bring myself to touch the body itself anywhere. The smell was horrible. I can't even begin to describe it, as I'd never smelled anything like it before, and have not smelled anything like it again. As I worked, Eddie remained silent, only handing me the tools I asked for. It got darker and darker, and Eddie had to use the light from his cell phone so I could see what I was doing. I didn't carve away too much, so that most of the body remained upright within the tree, though when I had started out, I was dumb enough to carve the leg out so much that it dangled, and, were it more decomposed, might have threatened to fall out while leaving the rest of the body in the tree. We carved our way up the body until the form of the chest, shoulders, and neck were all visible. Then, we got to the face. I worked the wood away, and a man's face was slowly revealed, though several strips of skin were pulled off with the wood. The eyes were closed, the nose looked like it had been crushed, and as I worked my way downward, I realized that the mouth was open. I had to use my pocket knife to pry the wood out of the body's open mouth. It took several minutes of lots of wiggling, but I finally managed to yank it out, though several of his teeth came with it. For the first time, I stood back to look at my grim handiwork. There, in front of me, was the body of a fellow human being, his face frozen eternally in a scream. I don't know whether the adrenaline had worn off, or if I just hadn't taken the time to really think, but the actual horror of the situation finally hit me. My knees felt weak, and I had to lean against the tree. Eddie just stood there, silent. As I looked over the body, I noticed that we hadn't uncovered an arm, and as I scanned the shape of the shoulder, I realized the arm must still be in the tree, stretching upward to where we hadn't carved yet. Whoever this man was, he had died with his arm reaching upward. That's when we called the cops. They showed up about 20 minutes and roped off the area, though who would be coming into the middle of the forest was beyond me. We told them our story, and I know they smelled the booze on Eddie's breath, so I did most of the talking. As they took photographs of the tree and started prying out the rest of the body, one of the younger cops went on a power trip, saying we should have called them immediately after finding the body and shouldn't have interfered so much with it. In fact, he might even charge us with vandalism of public property. We were let off the hook, however, after one of the older cops subtly told him to relax. They made some half-hearted attempts to tell us to go home, but we stuck around long enough to watch them finish pulling the rest of the remains out of the tree. They had to do it in pieces. I kept calling the cops over the next few days, asking for updates. During that time, I researched bodies in trees online, talked to my family, and made phone calls around town, which is how I found all the information I've already shared. When I called the cops about a week later, they finally told me that they'd ID'd the body as Jim Peters, a 43-year-old real estate agent who had gone missing a month before. Just a month? I pointed out that even if the tree had grown around his corpse, it would have taken years for it to grow around the body as much as it had. The cops didn't have anything to say about that. The mystery didn't end there, though. Jim Peters was not from Hudson. He had gone missing from Phoenix, Arizona. But it was definitely Jim Peters. They did DNA testing and everything. Nobody had any answers to how a guy from Arizona had ended up dead inside a tree in Hudson, Oregon. A few days later, Eddie knocked on my door. He looked a little rough around the edges, dirty jeans and flannel shirt, bags under his eyes, unshaven, but he was sober. He smelled like a campfire. "Where have you been?" I asked. "Around," he said vaguely. We sat on the step outside my apartment and talked while Eddie lit a cigarette. "Crazy that we just happened to hit the tree with a person in it," I eventually said. Eddie scoffed. "Wasn't luck," he said, taking a deep drag. "So what?" I said. "It was fate?" "No," he said. "It was just pretty much guaranteed to happen." "What do you mean?" "I mean that, of course we were going to knock one down with a body in it," he said. "Don't you get it?" "No," I had to admit. "We knocked down a tree with a body in it," he said, "because they all have bodies inside them." I was stunned. "How do you know?" "Well, maybe not all of them," he allowed, "but lots of them." "Eddie," I said slowly, "how do you know that?" For a long time, he didn't say anything, just smoked. I knew better than to prod, so I let him sit in silence until he was ready to talk. Eventually, I checked my phone. He'd been silent for 8 minutes straight. He even put out his cigarette on the cement and lit another one. "I gotta go," he finally said, getting up. I almost tried to stop him, but it was Eddie. That would have been pointless. About 2 weeks later, Eddie's parents called me. He hadn't answered his phone in 6 days.
Dude, I'm just
"Last
like
time we talked
running
with him,"
around
they said,
listening to
"he
this.
said
I'm
he was
not
on his
even
way
like.
to see you." "I'll try to get a hold of him," I said, "but it's probably just Eddie being Eddie." I tried calling Eddie. He didn't answer. I drove down to his apartment and knocked on the door. Nobody answered. So I grabbed the key I knew he kept under the mat, unlocked the door, and walked in. All of his stuff was there, but Eddie was nowhere to be seen. I called the cops and reported him missing before calling his parents. After I finished, I drove back to my apartment, parked my car, and for the first time in years, I cried. I sat there and cried. After about half an hour, I finally wiped my eyes and got out of my car. I locked the doors, got out, and made my way onto the sidewalk, began crossing the apartment courtyard, and almost fell down. There, in the middle of the courtyard's grass, and where there definitely hadn't been one before, there was a fully grown elm tree. I'm currently in the process of moving to Indiana. I'm leaving Hudson in a few days, and twice,
What
in the
up,
middle of the
Chris?
night,
Just doing
I've gone
some
down to the elm tree, carrying my own axe. But I just don't have
bosses.
it in me to confirm for myself that Eddie is in there.
Listening to creepy pastas.
I was 7 when it first happened. I never had much in the way of friends. Same with Cash, come to think of it. I was doing what I had always done when I was bored at that age, playing in a field near my parents' small wooden cabin. We were poor, very little to do when your parents didn't make much money. They had to spend it on important stuff like heating and their
Nice.
taxes. Oftentimes, I was glad just to have running water and a bed to sleep in at night. Anyway, the field. It was surrounded by woodland, all of the trees being tall, skinny conifers, mostly spruce with outstretched limbs that clawed at the sky. The field was quite large and was perfect for imitating my favourite scenes from all manner of media and literature. I would pretend to be Darth Vader fighting Luke Skywalker, or Captain Jack Sparrow making a narrow escape, or even Valkyrie Kane wielding magic to save the world once more. My father worked as a low-level convenience employee. My mother, well, she tried to work as a streetwalker, often taking our rusty, old Ford pickup truck into the city. She tried, she did, but I knew she hated it. Her and Dad had discussed it, argued for days, and then he finally gave in, as long as she had contraceptive methods at the ready. We couldn't afford another child. Even though she worked, she rarely got customers. She was over 40 years old, and a bit too plump for most folks prowling the streets to see as sexy, or at least what sexy is thought of these days. It was any ordinary day. I'd come home from school, my mother having to drive me into the city in order to get there. After school, I took the bus as close as it would take me to the forest where I lived. It was usually an hour-long walk to get home from there. After that walk, I always went to the field, making my way through the coniferous trees and humming my favourite songs. Most of what I entertained myself with during my time in that field came from my imagination. I would occasionally get to watch movies and videos on the school computers during the lunch hour. I always signed out as many books as I was allowed from the school's library. I don't quite remember the story I had made up for myself that time, but that doesn't matter. I was in the field, like always, when he appeared. He came from the woods. Most strange things do. A man of long and thin proportions who pushed between the hundreds of conifer needles and scraggly branches. I was at the opposite end of the field as he was, and I simply watched him walk towards me, taking huge, exaggerated strides with his spider-like legs. He was about halfway across when I finally got the sense that I should run from this man, this creature. I tried to, but my movements were sluggish, and I didn't get 5 paces before he was in front of me. I didn't know what he was at first. Without the man saying a single thing, I knew him as Mr. Longnose, and I knew what he wanted. Mr. Longnose was wearing a simple, dark red trench coat that swished the grass at his feet. He had tall, black combat boots on his feet and a pair of mirrored sunglasses perched upon his nose. And what a nose he had! Even though his disturbingly tall and gangly form, not to mention his arms that draped all the way down to his feet, was downright horrifying, his nose scared me the most. It stretched out from his face like a bird beak, pale white like the rest of his skin, and curved downwards sharply. The appendage seemed as though it should have weighed down his head, especially because his neck was so wiry. He didn't say anything, but I suddenly became aware that Mr. Longnose wanted me to play a game. He didn't speak at all, but I could hear a voice, or some sort of presence, that began counting down from 60. It resonated from Mr. Longnose like a pulse. Instructions had appeared in my mind. I had to hide from Mr. Longnose. I started to run. I ran across the field, into the woods, between the trees, towards my house. Soon my throat was raw from the exertion, and I dropped behind a fallen tree to catch my breath. I could hear something walking through the soft pine needles. A few twigs cracked. Mr. Longnose was looking for me. His game was hide and seek, an entertainment I was familiar with.
Shit.
I could feel the air from his movements and sense the swish of his coat. My teeth were chattering. My tongue was cold and dry. I felt antsy and paranoid. I couldn't
Well, I
stay still
bet.
any longer. I scrambled to my feet and ran. I didn't get far before Mr. Longnose came into my peripheral vision. He was still taking those extensive steps, his head turned towards me. I could see my ramshackle home in the distance, and I could hear my father using his mallet to pound nails and seal the hole in the roof. "Dad! Dad, help me!" I screamed. Mr. Longnose was right behind me now. He was making some sort of clicking noise, like the sound of a metal fork on someone's teeth. My foot caught on a log, and I was sent sprawling into the dirt. When I looked up, Mr. Longnose was looming over me. One of his hands came forward and touched my chest. A pain so intense forced my muscles rigid, and I let loose a cry so loud that my voice was hoarse within seconds. And still, I kept wailing as Mr. Longnose plunged his skinny phalanges deep into my flesh. My vision blurred until it was just a mass of grey and brown. When I woke up, Mr. Longnose was gone, and my father was cradling me in his bulky arms. My father immediately pointed out a tattoo on the left side of my neck. It was shaped like a plague doctor mask from the 1600s. I didn't know what it was when I first saw it, but my dad enlightened me, telling me it was something old doctors wore in
Fuck
medieval
you.
times. Of course, we were both perplexed, because I had never gotten a tattoo. I was only 7 after all. I was confused and disoriented from my experience, so my response was bleary and gobsmacked my father. "No, Dad. That's Mr. Longnose," was what I said. He tried to ask me what I meant, but I'd gone catatonic. I stayed that way for a
Alright,
week.
I'm
after
gonna
I'd met
go.
Mr.
I've been
Longnose.
on too long.